Top of the hour, so let's get going. Welcome everyone again. This is track C. Welcome. We're going to start this track. We've got Blake Christensen with us here from Valley View Granite, and we're going to learn a lot about what they've been doing in order to implement the EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System, that we'll talk about throughout the course of this. A lot of this is going to be a video. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions in the chat window. We've got Austin here to monitor that, and we'll go through that. First, we want to recognize our sponsors and those that have helped put this on. Our platinum sponsors, L3 Harris, Cambridge Air Solutions, Marathon, and Fire Toss. I also want to recognize our gold sponsors, Dominion Energy, Peterson Incorporated, Coca-Cola, Swire, WCF, Workers' Compensation Fund Insurance, Hydro, and WSRP. Also want to recognize our silver sponsors, Benell, Visible Supply Chain Management, Industrial Supply, Michael Best, Chevron, Menlove, Locktown, Beehive Insurance, and Key Bank, as well as our bronze sponsors, Energy Solutions, Stoll Reeves, Rocky Mountain Power, Nucor, Holland and Hart, Hexcel, Utah Metalworks, Rio Tinto, and JR Automation Setpoint. So again, welcome. This is track C. We're here to learn more about Valley View Granite and what they've done from an entrepreneurial operating system. And here with me is Blake Christensen. So Blake, as a CEO, why don't you take it off and give us some background on who you are and how and why you started this company?
Sure, thank you. We started Valley View Granite in 2003. I did countertops in Southern California, and then we saw a need, and my father and I started Valley View Granite and have grown to what we are of about 90 employees today.
So it was you and your dad had an idea, because you had done this for a long time at that point already. Why start your own company? I mean, why not just take the easier route? Why go through and start your own company?
That's a great question. I think you have a little bit of every entrepreneur has a little bit of crazy in them, and a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. I'd had businesses all growing up, whether it was painting numbers on curbs or, just little, I had a little coffee service that I serviced different dealerships growing up. And so it was natural to kind of start this, and we saw an opportunity, saw the market was starting to accept this type of countertop. And we just jumped on the opportunity and jumped in both feet.
Now, fascinating, because not only did you do that, but you did it in Tremonton.
Yeah.
So talk to us about Tremonton, Utah. Why did, all the places you could have started the business, why in Tremonton?
Yep. So that's where my father is originally from. Okay. They had a family turkey farm there, and we started in the old sheds that he had. And so that's, we were living there, and that's just, it was a good hub, freeway wise. And that's just kind of where things started.
So purely logical. It was, hey, we've got a place, we're ready. We've got an idea. We've got a place. We want to kick off and go do our thing. And so Tremonton happened to be the best of all worlds. And so what happened to the turkeys? Did you guys just get rid of them?
So that hasn't been active for a long time, but yeah, that's we joke about that. And the first elements of our production facility were in a very low ceiling, we kind of had to modify things. It wouldn't even fit the forklift. And so to manufacture countertops in a small shed was a little awkward.
Now, when you start out, it's just that you and your dad, right?
That's right.
Now that, a lot of people can say, hey, I've been there, done that. And on one respect, it can be hard working with your dad, but on the other hand, it's much simpler because it's just two of you.
Sure.
Today, it's 90 people in 7 locations. So talk to us, give us just an overview before we start the video about that journey of back in 2003, it's just the two of you. Now it's 2021 and there's 90 of you. Was 1 location, now there's 7. Every time you add people, it gets exponentially more complicated because of, if you think about it, you've got 2 of you, it's just a one-to-one relationship. But by the time there's 4, you actually have about 8 relationships, because there's this person to this person, this person to this person, this person, this person, so on. So just, adding just a couple of people creates an exponential number of relationships that you've got to keep everybody on the same page. So as the leader of this crew, how have you gone through that journey?
Well, absolutely. And it just compounds the complexity. And I think businesses naturally go through a stage where they hit a ceiling and they have to bring more people. They hit another ceiling and they have to bring more people. And we are no exception.
Hitting the ceiling or a brick wall?
Both.
Or both.
It feels like a brick wall. But in order to grow, you do have to, I mean, it's like Stephen Covey says, all broken relationships are a result of conflicting roles and goals. And if you can't clearly identify what everybody is supposed to do and what the expectation is and where the ship is going, you're going to have broken relationships along the way. And especially working with family, that's a big deal. You know, I've a lot of my family members, my brothers have worked, and I've put them through school and they've moved on, and we have great relationships. My dad has not been active in a long time, but we still have a great relationship. And then you bring on employees and structure, and it's you have to formalize those roles and really make sure that everybody knows where those goals are going. So
fascinating. Now, in the middle of all of that, then something clicked in your head and say, hey, we need to more formalize this, and it took you down to the entrepreneurial operating system. And if you're not familiar with that, there's a series of books out there. Most people just call it EOS, but you can go through those books and learn what this entrepreneurial operating system is. But what was that thing that clicked in your mind and said, this is the direction we need to go?
So we've tried a lot. We've paid consultants to come in, and you pay them a lot of money, and we've paid, and tried different methods. And what the entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS, does is it takes a lot of the different disciplines, the E-Myth, Stephen Covey's rocks, good to great, getting the right people on the right, on the right seats on the bus. It takes your getting things done philosophy of having an issues list, and it brings everything together in a very tangible, practical way to push your organization forward and push you through those ceilings that we kind of had talked about. And you have to really start formalizing your organization before you can start growing as because sure, you can go get more sales, but can you handle those sales? Do you know if you're making money? Are you watching your scorecards? You can grow your business, and most businesses, you're either growing or you're dying, but that's about 3 years ago, we came across the EOS system, and that has been by far the best system for our business to organize our teams, or give them a voice, give them a vision, give them a clear, way to make decisions on hiring and firing, based on those core values, and say, hey guys, here is what we are about. And you really start focusing on culture, and culture becomes very, very important, especially if you're a business with multiple locations, especially if you're a business with lots of personnel and people that need to be understanding and very clear of what their role is and what their goal is.
Love it. Austin, let's go ahead and roll, and let's learn a little bit more about Valley View Granite and what they're doing.
We fabricate, install, sell sinks, faucets, kind of almost the whole 9 yards. It's awesome here.
We're a highly automated company in terms of our manufacturing processes. So we're very precise. Precision is kind of the key for us.
Shez, tell us who you are and what you guys do.
I'm Shez. I work here for Valley View Granite. We manufacture granite countertops and showers. So production starts, the slabs come through this door, and then they come right over here to our water jets. As you can see, they got these tilt tables. It makes it a lot easier for my saw operators to load the slabs safely. And then there's a program that's written up in drafting. They scan that program in, and they hit start, check a few things, and then the saw does the rest.
Are they getting that program on a paper traveler that's going with the granite slab through? How do they get the information for that job?
So yeah, it does come on a paper. It comes on a clipboard. It contains the saw programs, the CNC programs, the shop drawing, all that stuff with measurements, so we know that we got it the right size, the right material, and all that fun stuff there.
You have an example of one of those?
I do. Let me go grab it. So here's that shop ticket there. You know, and it's got the name, all the slabs that are going to be used, all the information that we need to know, what we need to pull together, what edge profile it gets, what size the backsplash, all that stuff there.
So the program for this machine has already been written, it's done, and they're just scanning this in?
Yep, so if you flip open a page here, one more. So right there, that is a saw program. And as you can see, that's just a small remnant cutting out 2 pieces. So they'll scan that barcode. It'll pop up on the screen. They got to make sure they got the right remnant, and then we hit go. So there are several types of defects that can happen. As you can see, that piece there, if you have it different ways, you know, like it says, make sure this is oriented correctly. You know, we've had guys that put a piece up there wrong. It looks almost like a square, but say it's 2 inches longer one way than the other. If we don't get that put on the right way. Yep. Another thing is we got 3 centimeter material and 2 centimeter material. Sometimes our draftsmen make a mistake, enter the wrong thickness. If my saw guys don't catch it here, it'll make overcuts, it breaks the machine, things like that. So if you look right here, it says 1.181 inches. That transfers to 3 centimeters. So if they scan that program and that comes up as something other than that number that it's supposed to be, you know, that'll throw a red flag to the operator. Hopefully he catches it. We run back into the draftsman, and then they make that change for us.
How does the operator know when this job is due, which job to be pulling next? In other words, what's the planning process for the production?
Okay, so we have a schedule. It's Stone Profit Systems, and we have different schedules on that software there. And my material handler that's out in the warehouse, he's the guy that goes, okay, he pulls up his schedule, and it has the job kind of in order. And then we also have an order how we want to bring it in. I have a driver that ships all of our materials down to our other locations. And so we want those ones to come through the shop first so that they can exit out of the shop first as well. And so the material handler kind of sets that schedule up. And then the lead guy in here, he'll make sure it follows through that way through the shop. So what we have here is a CNC router. You know, and it's got several different profiles it can run. As you can see, we've got, you know, 7 or 8 different profiles that this machine can run. And what it is when we cut our material, it's cut 3/16 bigger than the finished size. And it comes over here to the CNC, it mills it down to the correct size and puts on the profile that the customer selects. It'll do the inside of the sinks, all your edges, just gets it to that, you know, final dimension.
And how long will one of these last?
So on average about 21,000 lineal feet before we send it in to ADI, and they re-true it up and send it back, and we can get about 2 of those out of the tool. So altogether about 40,000 lineal feet out of a tool. And that's out of the metals. As you can see here, we've got metals, and then we've got polishing bits. Those polishing bits, if the operator isn't making sure that their pieces are securely in place, those polishing bits can blow up pretty easily. So, you know, we go through about 10 sets of those to 1 set of metals.
Do you guys have or do anything with continuous improvement or process improvement? So if an employee has an idea here on a problem they're seeing or a way to make it better, how do you guys handle that? Do you have a formalized system, or how do ideas get brought to light and taken care of?
So we have a couple of ways. You know, if you have an improvement and you want to do it, we have a suggestion box. They can fill that out, throw it in that suggestion box. We read those every Friday. If there is a good idea.
Is that a leadership meeting every Friday those are brought up, or just here on the floor, or where's that happening?
Yeah, it's kind of a leadership meeting that they talk about those. And then, you know, if it's a good idea, we implement it, and then that person that threw that suggested in, they get like a $15 gift card for, you know, making a good improvement. And then just internally here on the floor, you know, if guys have an idea, they bring it up to their lead, and then their lead brings it up to me. And, you know, if it's a good idea, we talk about it and make that change. So what we've got here is it looks like we've got 2 jobs set up over here. One.
Okay, so Blake, as we watch through some of the operations of the business, and everyone who's in manufacturing that's watching this can very much relate to exactly what's going on, whatever your processes are, because they've been out there. You've got team members trying to create value to the product. You are trying to make sure that all the signals are clear about, here's what we're working on now, here's what we're going to work on next, here's what quality looks like, here's what quality doesn't look like. How has this you know, utilizing the methodology of EOS kind of helped the operations of the business?
Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to note that, you know, EOS is a way to organize the direction and the management and the overall effectiveness of the team. It doesn't necessarily substitute the day-to-day workflows and schedule. It complements them. They work together hand in hand. You know, and so EOS, just as our foreman was talking about, everyone has an issues list, and if they want to, in their weekly meetings, a natural part of the process is to everyone, you know, part of your weekly meetings, most of that weekly meeting is spent identifying the most important issues on that list that anybody can put on there on the agenda. So imagine a meeting with a floor shift, and they go into a meeting knowing that they can put items on the agenda that are identified, and then we're going to discuss them, and then we're going to solve them. So everyone has a voice that way. And then if things need to be taken to another team, that is, you know, then they get taken up the chain or taken to the next team through a cascaded message. You know, so EOS is, you know, it's not an ERP, or it's not a you know, a programming software or a scheduling. It's not going to build you a Gantt chart, but it's going to complement and give your team a way that they are meeting quarterly, meeting monthly, giving those team member monthly rocks that they feel like, hey, if you know, rocks are those quadrant 2 activities that Covey talks about, where, hey, if I master this, then all those little emergencies are going to get smaller and go away, because I've now created something that is dealing with preventing that emergency as it comes up. And so they're 2 separate things. And it was very confusing when we implemented EOS to our teams sometimes to oh, well, is this replacing the schedule? And the answer is no. Right. No, it's not, you know, and it was very confusing because but once, you know, they started understanding what EOS is and what it does, it's more of a, you know, an efficiency way to give your business traction, just like the book talks about.
Right, right. So you're looking at, here are the big things that we need to accomplish. And so from an operator standpoint, so if you're a foreman out on the floor, a lot of times you can think, you can feel, God, you know, how do I solve all these kind of issues that are coming up? And it just gives a framework in which we can solve those issues, to bring those issues to front and to say, okay, how do these issues looking at our big rocks we're trying to accomplish this quarter, and are these issues that are going to help us get to those goals? So it creates more context around the problems. Yep.
And it gets everybody rowing in that same direction.
Yeah, that's the key right there. Again, going back to going from 2 people to 90 people, the biggest challenge usually is to getting people to row in the same direction at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, awesome. Let's turn it back to the video and catch some more here.
Custom job there in the back, and then it looks like 2 more jobs set up over here. So 5 jobs right now getting worked on.
So is each operator responsible for a job, or does it get passed off from one person to the next and go through different steps?
Yeah, so one job, it'll come down the line. It'll come from the saw to the CNC, and then to the hand finish. And then once it gets hand finished, then a quality control guy comes through, make sure it's up to quality, and then it gets put onto the A-frame. So it does get passed on down the line, yes. These guys here, they will stick with that job until it's ready to go out to install.
Okay, so if he's working on this, it's going to be his responsibility until quality says, yes, this is good to go.
Correct.
So once the granite comes off of the cutters, it obviously has to be finished before going into a home or into a commercial business. So what's happening behind us?
So what's happening behind us is, like you said, when the product comes off of those CNCs, they're like 70% ready to go into a customer's home. Okay. These guys here, all they're doing is, you know, making sure that all the sharp edges are rounded off smoothly. You know, and depending on the types of material, you know, we've got engineered stone, which is man-made, versus granite, natural. Okay. A lot of this natural granite, it has chips and fissures in there. And those fissures can open up. Those chips, you know, they don't feel good on your fingers. So these guys are smoothing those out, filling in all those voids with glue, and making sure that our customers have a good quality product put in their home.
How do you teach and train a new employee to do this kind of finishing work?
How do we teach them? We just throw them out there with a trainer for 2 weeks, you know, and we show them at first how to do it as they watch us, and then we give them a polisher and just kind of stand over their shoulder and make sure they're doing it right. You know, there's a 7-step process to polish something up.
Okay.
It's kind of like sandpaper, you know, you got different grits and whatnot.
Okay.
And so, you know, when you're teaching somebody new,
yeah,
you give them the 100 grit, you let them do the thing with that, and then you have them blow it off so that they can see their finished work. Because when it's wet, you can't really tell what you're doing.
So we've got to get this 100 grit, polish it, clear the surface, and then be able to see and feel for any kind of
and make sure it's consistent,
so our quality can get up. So once we're done with the 100, what do we do next?
Then you go to the 200, okay, do the same thing, and then the 400, and
the blue here.
Yeah, that's the 400.
Okay.
And then after that, the 800 and 1500 and 3000, they all kind of do polish. So these kind of shape, and then the higher grit polish. And so, you know, like I said, you got to blow it off after every pad as a beginner, just to make sure that you've got every spot covered with that pad. Because it sucks when you get to the end and you blow it off and you're like, oh man, I didn't get it good enough. And then you have to go back a step or two and then go back. So
how do you quality control that for the customer? How do you know before this thing leaves the door that the customer is going to be satisfied with it?
So that's where our quality control guy comes in. He's in charge of checking over every piece of every job that comes through here. And, you know, he's obviously an expert at his job, making sure that there's no chips, that the polish is up to par, that the sizes are the right sizes, that the splash is the correct height, the right edges of the splash are polished, things like that.
Now, we were just looking over in the production area, but now we're over here in custom. What's happening here?
So what's happening here is, you know, the more custom, high-dollar stuff. As you can see here, we've got mitered edges cut on this material. What these guys are working on here is a mantle for a fireplace and a hearth for a fireplace. And so what they're going to be doing is all these pieces here are going to be glued together and create a box to slide over that mantle above the fireplace. And then these bigger pieces, I don't think they're down here. It's going to be the mantle on the floor. Okay. And you know, we do all kinds of custom work back here, mitered edges, stepped edges, rustic edges. You know, it's just a lot more time, a lot more money involved in that process there.
So as a team member, how do I know if I've been successful today?
So a regular production guy, you know, we ask them to do about 250 square feet per person. So as long as you achieve that, you know that you're doing a pretty good job. You don't break pieces, you don't hit the surface, things like that. So this is our backsplash area. You know, almost every job gets some kind of backsplash if it's 4-inch granite or full height granite. Okay. But all the splash gets run through this machine here. All it is an inline polisher, so it's got 7 heads. All right. It's got a sensor at the beginning. You put your material through, and when it comes out this end, it's already got one side polished. You know, it used to be you do all that by hand, and this has sped that process up immensely. It is a great tool to have.
So we've automated anything that's small, short, and long can go through here pretty easily then.
Correct.
Okay. So Sheriff, I understand you've been spending a lot of time and energy figuring out how to recycle. There's a lot of water that goes through this process here. What happens to it, and what are we looking at here?
So what happens is, you know, the machines are using the water, the polishers are using the water. It drops to the ground, into the ditches, and then into a pit in the shop. What we have is a mud pump. It pumps all that dirty water up into this tank here, and then this machine right here with all these filter plates in it, it draws the water and mud out of that tank, separates the mud from the water, and then gives us good clean water to run back through our machines.
So we're capturing the water, cycling the water back through, so there's not a net impact on the community.
Correct.
Excellent. What happens with the mud once that's been separated?
So the mud, it actually, we dump it into that blue bin here, and then we have a big pile of it out here. Once we get a big enough pile, we gather it up in a dump truck and go dispose of it.
Okay, so everything's contained. So environmentally, we're friendly on both the water and the soil.
Yes.
Excellent. I understand there's also solar on the building as well.
Correct.
Talk to us about solar. Why spend energy on working on renewable energy?
Well, you know, running all these pieces of equipment, it does get expensive, you know, running power. So, you know, like you said, to be environmentally friendly, we try to save that by using the solar and lower our costs per month of energy usage.
So you've got solars just on top of this roof right here?
Correct.
Is it along the whole building?
The whole building.
Okay.
The one side, yeah. So this is our wood bay. We do several things here. Say a customer orders an island with a 2-inch mitered apron. We've got to fill the void underneath that countertop. Because if we don't, what's going to happen is that mitered apron is going to sag over the edge of your cabinets, and then you won't be able to open your drawers or your doors.
Up a little bit.
So we've got to create a subtop to get that up to the same level as the cabinets. So we do that in here. Also, we cut strips for our installers. So when, like I said, we put a subtop in the island, but the perimeter, the installer just nailed down strips to the top of the cabinets. And that's what we do in here.
What goes on in here? How do you manage this inventory? I mean, I guess the nice thing about stone is that it's not going to expire or go bad, so you don't have to worry about that as much, do you, or do you?
Pick up. Go. Perfect. Now, one of the things that we were intrigued when we were visiting Blake is the, you know, that whole direction of renewable energy as well as recycling water. How did that fit into the goals you were trying to achieve as a company? Did you say, you know, how was that part of the strategic vision, and how did that come to pass?
Oh, absolutely. And we went years before we needed to go to a closed system and start recycling the water, mostly because we need more pressure, you know, than just the city pressure can supply. But I think it goes back to all to those core values, you know. And as a company, we feel like giving back is one of the things that we want to do, and so that's why recycling water. You know, we decided to do the solar project when we built the new warehouse, and those things are part of our core values and who we feel like we want to be.
How did you get to those core values? That's what a lot of companies are like. Hey, we just go do our thing, and not many of them ask themselves those core value questions. How did you get there?
It's a process. It's a long process, but the EOS, when you implement it, you know, in a pure method, has a way to create those core values. And literally what we did is it took us almost 4 weeks, you know, a month and a half to come up with what we finalized our core values. And the way we did that is we basically, you know, said, hey, who in our company exemplifies, who's our rock stars, who do we want? And then we started coming up with adjectives, and started putting them on the board, and then started eliminating them, and eventually we came up with those core values. It was the senior leadership team, but it really came, you know, and you find that your core values are something that you discover, not necessarily you bring from the outside in. It's something that you you a lot of times already have in your organization.
So it sounds to me like you're trying to uncover what is. So they're not necessarily aspirational values. This isn't something that we want to. Rather, we're trying to see inside of ourselves, what do we value? How do we relate? How do we connect with one another? And then exhibit those in terms of
Correct.
your values.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. And it's amazing because, you know, we our core values, we came up with the acronym, you know, SOLID,
Yeah.
you know, and self-motivated, optimistic, laser focused, industry expert, dedicated, and dedicated. And we really try to make those values, you know, that we try to hire based on those, you know, and we try to put our scorecards based on those.
Okay. Now that's, and we saw that a number of times that we showed in one of the screens, we showed that piece of it. But, you know, a lot of people look at the team members they want to bring on and just specifically focus on skill set. You know, can this person execute this type of job in a relatively, you know, at a good quality and not a lot of time? But you're saying that there's more to it than that. We've got to look at does the person's values line up? How did you get there? And how does that work throughout the organization?
Yep. And I think in our organization, the exact opposite is true. You know, we look at the values, we look at the attitude, we look at the person before we look at the skill set, mostly because almost everybody in our organization, we are training from the ground up, at least on the you know, the direct labor level. You know, all of our engineers, all of our CAD department, most of them have zero CAD experience before they come to us, but they've, you know, we pull them from installers, you know, and we do all of our training in-house. So the key for us has been, do we have a person that is teachable and that has the correct attitude and the correct values to be able to fit with our culture? And then the skill sets are secondary to that.
And it sounds like in the teaching process, you've actually brought people along. And so some may have been, you know, frontline operators, some may have been frontline installers, and you've created a system and created a value system, say, hey, this person's got values and I want to increase their skill set so that we can serve our customers better. Is that kind of the methodology that you've used?
Yeah, and especially in the market right now. I mean, maintaining and keeping employees is the biggest challenge that businesses face, in my opinion, right now. And if we can give them a career path, if we can give them a purpose, if we can give them a voice, and as a team member, then the likelihood of them staying is much higher. If we can give them something to look forward to, and a scorecard. People want to know, did I hit a home run today?
Exactly. Am I winning or am I losing?
Right.
And am I winning? Am I losing? And what's next? And
Right.
those are the things you're helping by helping them be able to see what is my path here at the company, and am I being successful today?
Absolutely.
And all of that rolls up into the EOS, because in the EOS we said that here's our vision, so we know the things that the values that we have, and here's our scorecard, so we know if we're winning or losing.
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, Austin, let's catch probably the last segment of this.
Means we keep it inside, so it doesn't really go bad inside, but there's a lot of places that keep it outside, and I mean that the sun bleaches it.
Changes
so
the color.
it does change the color. Absolutely. The production does end here. This is where we bring our finished product, and then we load it onto a delivery truck every day. We've got to pull the sinks, bracing, dishwasher brackets, all that stuff happens in this area. And then at about 3 o'clock, we pull the delivery truck in. We get it all loaded with sinks and tops and all that stuff. And then our driver comes in at about 2 a.m. and delivers it to all of our other locations.
How many other locations do you have?
So we've got one in Sandy, one in Salt Lake, one in Layton, one in Logan, and one in Idaho Falls, and then corporate here.
So you got to get everything loaded up out to those locations by what time? Is it?
So installers get here at 7. So we've got 2 install crews out of here, 2 out of Layton, 1 out of Salt Lake, 1 out of Idaho Falls. We do not have an install crew out of Logan because they just come out of this shop. Yep.
Is there a quality check at that point as well? Like, are the installers verifying before they grab this stuff and go?
Yes.
Or are they just trusting you? Like, okay, these guys got it right, so we're ready to grab it.
It's a little of both. You know, they're supposed to do the quality check, you know, and we all rely on the person in front of us to do their job, you know, and we do have hiccups here and there of, hey, we forgot a sink or we forgot a top or whatever. But for the most part, they do a good job at double checking and making sure everything is there.
So when the countertop is delivered, comes with the sink, with hardware potentially, you guys are allocating that to the work order from the beginning?
Well, right here at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you carry some inventory of like standard stuff people want, or is it build to order?
You know, depending on what the customer wants, sometimes they supply their own, sometimes they buy what we have to offer. And so we serialize every sink, and so our guy that loads up the truck, you know, he pulls those sinks and then enters that serial number into the sell order, making sure that we
Typing this in to check it, or is he scanning it in? How's that work?
So it is type it in, yeah. Okay. So like I said, it's quite a lot of work, but it's very important, you know, because if it says we have 20 sinks and we only got one sink, we have an issue for the next day, you know what I mean?
For sure.
My name's Temp. I'm the warehouse manager and receiving manager for Valley View Granite. My job entails managing all of the inventory you see in this warehouse, also receiving it, unloading it from the trucks, and putting it in the proper locations. We order material and it comes into the warehouse. We back it into this bay, and we have 2 awesome 5-ton overhead cranes that we use to offload material. Most places aren't able to unload what we call a bundle of material at 7 or 8 slabs at a time. We can actually do that, so we can unload a full semi-truck in about 20 minutes.
So I see what looks like a lot of inventory, but that's all relative, right? So talk to me about like how much inventory do we have in terms of days of inventory? How frequently does stuff go in and out of here, and how long does it stay?
So it's interesting, granite and quartz, it runs in cycles. So depending on the season, time of year, it could be what's trending on Pinterest. As far as inventory, I think right now we have around 3,500 slabs in the warehouse.
So 3,500 slabs. How long does a slab stick around in inventory?
Our stock colors we move through pretty quickly.
Okay, what's a stock color like?
So one of our most popular colors is actually this one right here.
Nice gray. I can see why.
Yep.
That's looks like a safe choice. It's really pretty.
It goes with about anything, and we will. This bundle was actually sold before we got it. So
are you buying to order, or is there a cutoff point where like these styles are, we just stock them, and then there's some niche stuff that we're buying to order?
in the colors that we stock, we try to stay 2 or 3 bundles ahead. Okay. So we want to have some inventory, right. Because our draftsmen can just use those as they need them, on whatever jobs. And custom orders are different. If a customer wants a certain color that we don't actually stock, then we bring those in individually.
And where are these coming from? What's the lead time on that? I call in with a custom order, and you're like, okay, this is how long it's going to take me to get it from.
So most of the material actually comes from Brazil or India. Really? But we have several local suppliers, most of them in Salt Lake, that carry the inventory, and we order out of their warehouses.
It looks like we've got each slab. Now, at this stage, do you still consider this a slab right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Each individual one is a slab.
So each one has its own code, its a unique identifier.
Yep, it does.
Talk to us about the flow. How do we keep all of this straight? We're looking at, 3,500 pieces right here. How do you know where they're located? How do you keep the flow going in here?
Okay. So our software that we use, our inventory software, also happens to be the software that we run the entire company with. It's called Stone Profits, and it's been a fantastic move for us to go to that software. So each individual slab has a dedicated number, an identification number on it. When we receive that material into our system, it automatically gives it a unique identification number. So once we get that ID on there, it's ready to be put in its location. We will put it in the A-frames or in these finger racks, and then we scan it with an iPad and a scanner, and it puts the location in the system correctly for us. So we scan the whole warehouse once a month, and we do a reconciliation, and that automatically updates the slabs that we may have missed, that we didn't get scanned or scanned into the wrong location. So that updates everything. All of these locations here are where we stock mostly our stock material. Most of our custom material comes here. These are special buys or exotics that we carry. This material over here in these finger racks, those are materials that we brought in specifically for a customer, and they're going to cut within 2 to 3 weeks. And so we know if their job is up in 2 to 3 weeks, they're going to go in here. EE, for example, this row is EE.
Okay.
And then actually it's row 1, row 2, row 3, and all of them have a CC, DD, or EE. So 1, 2, and 3, that's our CC, DD, EE code. 1 through, I think it's 53, I think is what we have.
Okay.
53 rows. But every location, every A-frame you see has a different location identifier on it. So when we scan this material in, we'll scan the barcode on the floor, and then we'll scan each individual slab.
Okay.
That puts it in that location.
So then I know that this slab that has a unique identifier has a specific home.
Exactly.
And so I'm not wasting time running around looking for this. And heaven forbid it's that downstacked slab that you've got to go move 10 other things to get to the bottom of.
It happens. And anyone with access to our system can pull up our inventory and look for a specific slab. It'll tell them exactly where it's at, and they can go look at it. Our loaders can pick it and take it to the shop, whatever.
So the team is trained with the visuals to know, here's how I do my job. So I don't have anything in my way. I can just go do my job. I know exactly where it is, what's expected, how to find it. I can locate it on the floor, and then how to check it out and utilize it.
Correct. Correct. It's a great system. We made the software move about 3.5 years ago. I think 3, maybe 4. But it was a great move. So when the customer has made their decisions, they know their job, they've made all their decisions, and we can move forward with that. Our draftsman will draw it up, get an approval on it, and then they'll bring it out to the loaders. The loaders are the people that take the material into the shop, and that they're actually part of the shop, not part of the warehouse. But they'll bring these clipboards out. It has all the information we need on it. They can go through and just pick any one of them.
Okay.
Yep. So it has material tags on it for remnants. So once we cut it, we make a remnant. We label that as it comes out of the shop.
All ready to go. I'm assuming
go.
that I know that there's going to be some pieces because we're going to optimize the slab as best we can.
Yep.
But there's going to be something left, and so we've prepared.
Yes.
We've prepared for that.
Yep.
And we pre-printed the codes and ready with stickers.
Yep. And they know in the shop, because of our shop order, our work ticket, they know which label goes on which piece.
Okay.
And then it lists the material on here as well. Our loaders or material handlers can take the iPad, they'll go pick the slab that they want, and they'll actually scan it onto one of our mobile carts that goes into the shop.
Okay.
Every time it's moved, it's scanned, and it moves it into a new location, whether that is on a mobile cart, whether it's in the shop, and then it's scanned all the way through the process to the install.
So you know exactly where every slab is,
Yep.
whether it's here.
We didn't catch, but let's go ahead and wrap up. So Blake, let's give you last words. If there were some advice that you have for those watching this about, how do I take my operations to the next level? How do I deal with the growth on my hands? What would you tell those out there who are trying to find those kind of solutions?
That's a great question. I think, the EOS has an analogy called letting go of the vine, and when you are just starting out, you have your fingers in everything. You have you know exactly what jobs are installing. You know exactly what's going on. You have a voice over here, a voice over here. And as you grow, you kind of lose that control. You lose that knowledge of what's going on. I mean, perfect example. I mean, we installed all the counters at the Salt Lake City the airport, and I hadn't even seen the job until I flew out. And it's like, oh wow, these but as you grow.
Wait a minute, you didn't see the job until you flew out of the airport.
I knew that we had installed them, and I saw them in production, but I didn't see them at the job site.
Then you went to the airport and you're like, oh hey, that's one of mine.
Right. But as you grow, you lose that. You lose a little bit of the, and you have to be willing to delegate and trust. Let go of that vine and trust that your teams will pick up the slack. Will perform the way that you performed. As far as advice, I think that for us, again, EOS has been by far the best thing we have done to get us moving in the right direction and get us going through the growth. But you have to realize that it worked for us simultaneously with a good system that gave us the data, that gave us the workflows, that gave us the inventories, and then EOS just really accentuates that and gets the two to really flow together. And that's what for us was required to take our business through and push through some of these ceilings and to the next level.
Love it.
So
thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. And there'll be a recorded version on this available to you later. So thank you for being here. Blake, thank you very much.
Thank you.